Okay, whenever you're ready.
It's sad, isn't it, how expectation never really matches up to what reality is. We expect that whenever anyone would ever hire a prostitute, it'll be a simple process. The client will locate the prostitute, he will request a certain act, the prostitute will insist on protection, the act will be performed, and it'll be as simple as that. The reality of it is much more brutal and disgusting. In many cases, the prostitute is beaten, is raped, is robbed, and in many cases doesn't use protection. My name is p4.final.astoyanov. I'm part of the United States Business and Politics Group, and I'm here to present why we should legalize and regulate prostitution in the United States of America. There's a few advantages. One is the economical advantages that legalizing prostitution and regulating it would bring in money to the economy, and the other advantage is the safety. The safety of the prostitute, the safety of the client, the reduction in STDs, the reduction in human trafficking. First, let's begin with the economical reasons. In America, prostitution costs the American taxpayers $200 million a year, 66 cents out of each of us. That's an underestimated figure. It says 80,000 people are arrested for prostitution. It's more than around 100,000 people are arrested for prostitution. If it was to be legalized, we would be able to save about that much money in court and jail fees. The Prostitute Education Network says nationally over 100,000 people have been arrested for prostitution. The National Task Force on Prostitution suggests that at least over 1 million people in America have participated in prostitution at some point in their lives. Not only can legalizing prostitution save money, it can also bring in money. In the example in a BBC article, and many others like it, is the example of Bonn, Germany. In Bonn, Germany, prostitution is legalized and it's also taxable. And they have many taxes on prostitution, but one of them is this one, this machine. It's a simple ticketing machine, and it costs about $6. It's about $9 American a night, €6 there. And it's simple. The prostitute goes, she puts in the money, and she gets a little ticket. The ticket will allow her to work for the night. If she doesn't get the ticket, she is fined. By estimates, Bonn, Germany estimates that they will bring in an equivalent of nearly $260,000 a year from only 200 prostitutes. There's also, if that was to be applied, if the same system was to be applied to just the prostitutes that we arrest, then equivalently we could make a little as much as $130 million a year, and as high as $1.3 billion, estimatedly. There's also other taxes, and that's the lowest form of tax. That's the cheapest. There's also other taxes like a income tax, a brothel licensing tax, a sales tax on prostitution. But a more important reason, at least to me, to legalize prostitution is for the safety, for human lives and health. One of the problems among prostitutes is, but not a big one, is STDs. In theory, legalizing prostitution should bring in regulation, the same way how you have to regulate a restaurant. There will be an encouragement of condoms, health checks. I'm very sorry, but Diego, can you not make that face?
So it's still looking. Look over here.
A health journal, The Lancet, an article in it says the prevalence of sexually transmitted bacteria infections was 80 times greater in 63 illegal street prostitutes than in their 753 legal brothel counterparts. Why? Because in the legal brothels, prostitutes are encouraged to use condoms. But the other greater reason among safety is the protection of the prostitute. See, while if prostitution was to be legalized, then there would be a shift of illegal street prostitutes to be forced, well not forced, but encouraged to work in brothels, where they equate a safe working environment. A preliminary report by the University of Chicago among their street prostitutes say that street prostitutes in Chicago at the time, which was the 1990s, experienced 12 incidents of violence and around 300 incidents of unprotected sex every year. The reason why they experience so much violence? Well, because they're prostitutes, and prostitution is illegal. And if they call the police, they will be arrested. Illegal prostitution, as I said, creates a safe working environment. In an article in the Journal of Violence Against Women in 2005, said that legal brothels and call girls experience relatively very little violence because there's safety procedures that help them along the way. The reason there's bodyguards that can do away with angry customers. The same thing happens in Nevada. There was an article in the National Post, a Canadian newspaper, that criticized Germany because Germany had legal brothels. Around 2006, I believe, Germany hosted the World Cup. The problem with that is the fact that people around the world, including Condoleezza Rice, expected that the legal prostitution in Germany will bring in a lot of sex trafficking because of the promotion of the World Cup. A lot of tourists to see the World Cup will be there to hire a lot of prostitutes. Turns out the opposite happened. There was no change in the amount of sex that was being solicited. At the same time, the woman, Christopher Hume, who was the politician who pushed to legalize prostitution, said that nothing really happened. In fact, Christopher Hume said that human trafficking was actually reduced. It was actually better because the police, instead of focusing their efforts on putting away prostitutes, they were able to focus their effort in applying their scarce resources to close down the illegal, unregulated brothels that were actually trafficking the women. The article says, and I quote, "Prostitution is like any other industry. Make it illegal and you give criminals a monopoly. When you legalize it, you give law-abiding enterprises a chance to compete." To finish up, there are actual crimes, such as murder, theft, rape, the crimes with actual victims. This is why Americans must dissolve the fantasy that just because something is bad, it should be illegal. When in real life, the issues like prostitution are much more complicated than that. Keeping it illegal will actually create more problems than it solves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alex.